Hi everyone, this is Today in History. Today is Friday, February the 9th, the 40th day of 2024. There are 326 days left in the year. On this day in 1757, concluded by Robert Clive, the Treaty of Alinagar restored Calcutta, now Kolkata, which Clive had recovered in January from Siraj al-Dowlah, to British control and served as a prelude to the siege of Bengal. On this day in 1796, Qianlong, the fourth emperor of the Qing dynasty, abdicated and was succeeded by Qing on this day in 1825. As no presidential candidate received a majority of electoral votes in the election of 1824, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to elect John Quincy Adams, who won fewer votes than Andrew Jackson, as President of the United States. Adams was the son of John Adams, the second President of the United States. In the 1824 election, 131 electoral votes, just over half of the 261 total, were necessary to elect a candidate president. Although it had no bearing on the outcome of the election, popular votes were counted for the first time in this election. On December 1st, 1824, the results were announced. Andrew Jackson of Tennessee won 99 electoral and 153,544 popular votes. John Quincy Adams of Massachusetts received 84 electoral and 108,740 popular votes. Secretary of State William H. Crawford, who had suffered a stroke before the election, received 41 electoral votes, and Representative Henry Clay of Kentucky won 37 electoral votes. As dictated by the U.S. Constitution, the presidential election was then turned over to the House of Representatives. The 12th Amendment states that if no electoral majority is won, only the three candidates who receive the most electoral votes will be considered in the House. Representative Henry Clay, who was disqualified from the House vote as a fourth-place candidate, agreed to use his influence to have John Quincy Adams elected. Clay and Adams were both members of a loose coalition in Congress that by 1828 became known as the National Republicans, while Jackson's supporters were later organized into the Democratic Party. Thanks to Clay's backing, on February the 9th, 1825, the House elected Adams as President of the United States. When Adams then appointed Clay to the top cabinet post of Secretary of State, Jackson and his supporters derided the appointment as the fulfillment of a corrupt bargain. With little popular support, Adams' time in the White House was, for the most part, ineffective, and the so-called corrupt bargain continued to haunt his administration. In 1828, he was defeated in his re-election bid by Andrew Jackson, who received more than twice as many electoral votes than Adams. Corrupt bargain, exactly 100 years ago this year is when this corrupt bargain happened. Very shady stuff. On this day in 1940, South African novelist, critic, and translator J.M. Coetzee, who won the 2003 Nobel Prize for Literature, was born. On this day in 1942, Congress pushes ahead standard time for the United States by 1 hour in each time zone, imposing daylight savings time, called at the time wartime. Daylight savings time, suggested by President Roosevelt, was imposed to conserve fuel and can be traced back to World War I, when Congress imposed one standard time on the United States to enable the country to better utilize resources following the European model. The 1918 Standard Time Act was meant to be in effect for only 7 months of the year and was discontinued nationally after the war. But individual states continued to turn clocks ahead 1 hour in spring and back 1 hour in the fall. The World War II legislation imposed daylight savings time for the entire nation for the entire year. It was repealed on September the 30th, 1945, when individual states once again imposed their own standard time. It was not until 1966 that Congress passed legislation settling the standard time that permanently supersedes local habits. I'm going to have more on daylight savings time in a future video. On this day in 1943, the Battle of Guadalcanal ended with an Allied victory over Japan. On this day in 1960, the official groundbreaking ceremony is held for the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The first star to be dedicated on the historic walkway belonged to the actress Joanne Woodward, an Academy Award winner for The Three Faces of Eve. On this day in 1964, it is estimated that 73 million Americans were watching that night as the Beatles made their live U.S. television debut on The Ed Sullivan Show. Sullivan gave his now famous intro, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles." After a few seconds of rapturous cheering from the audience, the band kicked into "All My Lovin'," followed by "Till There Was You," And then came She Loves Me, and the place seemed to explode. What followed was perhaps the most important 2 minutes and 16 seconds of music ever broadcast on American television. On this day in 1971, pitcher Leroy Satchel Paige became the first Negro League veteran to be nominated for the Baseball Hall of Fame. In August of that year, Paige, a pitching legend known for his fastball, sportsmanship, and the longevity of his playing career, which spanned 5 decades, was inducted. Joe DiMaggio once called Paige the best and fastest pitcher I have ever faced. On this day in 1984, Soviet Premier Yury Andropov died 18 months after succeeding Leonid Brezhnev and was replaced by Konstantin Chernenko. On this day in 1996, German physicist Peter Armbruster and his team of scientists synthesized chemical element 112, a heavy transuranium element that was later named copernicium. On this day in 2002, Princess Margaret, who as King George VI's second daughter and the youngest sister of Queen Elizabeth II, struggled to balance her independent spirit with her duties as a member of the British royal family, died in London. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Today is Friday, February the 9th, the 40th day of 2024. There are 326 days left in the year.